Good afternoon. Welcome to a bit of quantum. That's what you need in your afternoon, right? So I'll be talking to you about how to develop a tool for humanity to solve some of its most complex challenges. So I think, first off, I think we can probably agree that conventional computing has completely revolutionized our lives. I think, we, especially at a conference like this one, we can really experience that, all the time around us. But it may be a surprise to some of you that when you look at some of the most complex things that we'd like to solve, so be that, simulating an entire aircraft engine, or understanding how chemical reactions work, solving some logistics problems, even our most powerful supercomputers available today get nowhere near solving those particular problems. So there is a need for a new computing technology to do some of the heavy lifting on that side. And this is really where quantum computing comes in. Now, I'm not going to roll in a whiteboard. We're not going to dive deep on that. I'm going to stay high level. We only have 10 minutes, so don't worry too much about that. This is the only bit of tech we're going to quickly go to, just so we get on the same playing field. So when we look at conventional computing, we often talk about bits. That's how information is represented. A bit can be 1 or 0, and it then gets represented in a string of ones and zeros. If you have a supercomputer with 2 bits, you have a choice to make in terms of how you encode that. You can have a 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, or 0, 0. You must make that choice. When you're looking at a quantum computer, we now introduce the concept of a quantum bit, or a qubit. This weird thing can also be 1 or 0, but because it lives in the quantum world, it can be 1 and 0 at the same time. Kind of crazy. Now, what does that do for us? If I now have a 2 quantum bit quantum computer, all of a sudden, I no longer have to make a choice in how I encode here. I can represent all of the possibilities that we talked about for the classical case all at once. May not seem that impressive. Let's scale this up a little bit. Let's say we have 250 qubits. It's an exponential scaling we're talking about here. So a quantum computer with 250 qubits can represent more atoms than there are in the universe. It is that exponential scaling that excites a lot of people about quantum computing. Now, with this sort of ability, and there's a bit more to it, but let's leave it at that for now, there's a number of very exciting applications that people often point to when we talk about quantum computing, in particular drug discovery, in the finance sector, portfolio optimization, developing new materials, understanding climate better, breaking your encryption that secures your financial data, and so on. We nowadays have applications across all major sectors, I think would be fair to say. And since we always have to mention AI these days, it is also postulated in many ways that quantum computing will accelerate AI and may actually be the engine that will take AI to where we eventually want to be. So I think that's another exciting area there. So what does a quantum computer ultimately need to look like to unlock those applications? That's what I just want to talk to you about today, really. Now, the first thing I really want you to take away from this talk, it is not 200 qubits or 250 qubits. Actually, we eventually need quantum computers with millions of qubits. Please take that away from this talk. If anything, that's an important one. Now, why is that? Why do we need so many? The reason is that all quantum computers have errors. And these errors are really annoying. We can't get quantum computers to be absolutely perfect, so we need to do something about them in an algorithmic way. This is where we run something called quantum error correction algorithms. Complicated beast, but high level what this thing is saying is give me lots of qubits, and I'll remove the errors for you. This is where these large target numbers are coming from. Now, where are we today? So at the moment, you can access quantum computers via the cloud. I think that's part of the exciting part here. But they are very, very small. They don't really do anything useful just yet. Don't let anyone tell you anything but that. What you're looking at here is the number of qubits on the bottom, and you've got the quality of this quantum computer on the y-axis. And really what needs to happen is, so we're somewhere up here in the top left. Over time, as we like to unlock the applications, we really need to start pushing to the right and down. And the big question really is, how do we do that? That is the big challenge in quantum computing at the moment that people are trying to solve. Now, how do we do that? I keep it broad, but you can probably imagine that universal quantum, we have an answer to that question, and I'll take you through that. Number one, I don't think people talk about that enough in quantum computing. It's actually about the people. We need the world's best engineers, physicists, software developers, and so on. You do not want a physicist building a quantum computer. It ought to be engineers. Those guys all have to work together, so you really need to build a passionate, interdisciplinary team that can really work on a long-term endeavor. I think that's really important. Number two, we need high-quality qubits. This is incredibly important. There's lots of different ways of how to build a quantum computer. I'm highlighting a couple of ways here. The next thing to take away is that trapped ions currently is the world's best performing platform for quantum computers. And we also happen to be a quantum computing company using trapped ions, so it's definitely the place to be. Number three, really important from a tech point of view, is we need to think about how to integrate everything onto a chip. Here you're looking at what we're, for example, developing right now, very close to having that out the door, fully integrated quantum processing chips, where everything you need is included on that chip, and you can basically look at it as a mini quantum computer. Now, what that then allows you to do, if you can do that, is hopefully stitch them together to make bigger quantum computers. How to connect different quantum computing modules together is the biggest challenge in quantum computing today. We found a solution to that. There's some numbers here. Take my word for it, they're very, very good. We've basically cracked that problem right out the get-go. Number five, what I always point out to people is that it's absolutely important that you can build the quantum computer. You'd be surprised by how many different approaches are out there today where they look very exciting, but no one really knows how to build them using currently available technology. In my mind, it's incredibly important that you leverage what we have there today, the silicon industry and so on, to build quantum computers. And finally, money. These things are not cheap, but absolutely important that we attract VC investment, but it's not just about the VC side. This is a long-term endeavor. Other revenue sources ought to be part of that as well. Governments is a really interesting one in my view. We've recently sold 2 quantum computers to the German government for 70 million euros, for example. That's where a lot of more longer-term money can come from in our mind. And this is just a snapshot of what's really going on worldwide at the moment, where governments are investing significantly into this technology. Now, how do you access all of that? I've mentioned it already. You can access quantum computers today via the cloud. My view is that is really the way to do it. You're not going to have that on your office desk or so on. You shouldn't really have to worry about how this stuff functions. You just access it whenever you need it. The second thing to point out, very important, is that quantum computers are not there to replace current machines. There's plenty of stuff that conventional computers are much better at than quantum computers. And really the idea is that you submit your problem, whatever you like solving, and compilers will take care of the rest. They decide, hey, this bit, very good for a quantum computer. This part, not so good. Let's do that on the conventional supercomputer. And they work in tandem, and you get the solution up. That is really where things are moving at the moment, and I think what the future will look like as well. Now, very briefly, I always like to end with this particular slide. It is a bit old, but when we talk about quantum computing, it obviously seems very futuristic. And one may wonder, do we really need that? Now, I'll point you to a particular quote from back in the days when conventional computers came about. And what people said at the time, the mathematician people said there were no problems complex enough that computers were needed. That is how naive we were not that long ago. Okay, now we're in the fortunate position that in quantum computing, we already know how this will change our lives in quite a dramatic way. But what I always like to point out here is that we're only at the beginning of this revolution. There is lots to still learn. There's still lots to uncover what these machines will actually eventually do for us. And I think that's part of the exciting journey that we're currently embarking on. Thank you very much.